You got to that point in your life where your identity finally said, wait a minute, this is maybe my situation. The things I can't control, the outside circumstances. That's what that is, but that's not who I am. And so what do you think would contribute to that?
Like I tell people, I feel like I was betraying myself to please other people. Like I was letting other people's perception of me become my perception of myself. It was not until I decided, like, look, I'm gonna be who I am, whether you like it or not.
All right, welcome to another edition of the Journey to Freedom podcast. And again, I'm your host, Brian Arnold, and just Dr. B, I guess is what people call me. And so just excited about today and what today brings and what today holds. I have James on today. I have James Epps on today. And James is, he is a public speaker. He talks about a lot of things. He's on the east side of the United States. I know we're here in Denver, Colorado, where I'm at. But when you find young Black men who are doing what it takes to make sure that they're getting things done, it's just this amazing ideas that we have to do. And so one of the things that I just wanted to share and just make sure that we are getting stuff done is that as we're doing 100 Black men this year, as we're working on making sure that we have the right disciplines, as we're making sure that we are helping each other grow, it's just so important that we find people who are doing it. There's a whole lot of people out there that say, I want to do this, a whole lot of people out there who I don't know if they just, you get into communities, you go to backyard barbecues and they start, complaining about all the things that they can't control. And then you find people like yourself, James, where we find out that I can control some of the narrative. I can control only what I can control, and I'm going to go do that. But not only am I going to go do that myself, I'm going to bring others along with me. I'm going to serve others. I'm going to make sure that other people have the ability to be able to come alongside so that as a community, we can do stuff together. Like, I'm going to do a civil rights tour that I did last year in February, and I went with another group. And now I'm going to take a group of men this next February, and we're going to go down to Birmingham. We're going to go to Selma. We're going to go to Montgomery, and we're going to do some stuff that talks about our history. But at the same time, we're not leaving it there, right? We're not just learning about what happened. We're saying, okay, this is what happened at the Equal Rights Museum, and we're talking about mass incarceration, and we're talking about the transatlantic slave trade, and we're talking about those things. But how does that apply to us now, and how do we move forward? And James, I know you're one of these folks that will make sure that happens for the people that you work with. And I'm so excited to have you on today as we talk about trust and we talk about faith and we talk about finances and identity and these things that will make us better as men. And so we may not get to all of them. It just depends on our conversation that we have. But I'm just so excited that you took your time out to be on this podcast today, that we have the opportunity. And hopefully, I can promise you, we're going to impact some people today. And so it's because your willingness to be part of it. It's your willingness to say, hey, I got some stuff I want to share. Not only am I going to share it, but I'm going to help impact others. So thank you for being on. Go ahead and James, why don't you introduce yourself? Maybe start out. You can start anywhere in your life you like, and kind of tell us about your past and your upbringing. And then we're really going to get into the future because that's where everything's going at this point. So
Yeah.
thanks for being on.
Yeah, hey, thank you, Dr. B, man. I appreciate it, man. I mean, this is crazy because we kind of just connected. We kind of connected on what, like Monday or Tuesday,
Yeah.
and for you to invite me on as a guest, for you to see something in our short interaction that you wanted to invite me on, man. I always feel privileged, and I always feel like that's how we should be as Black men, and just men in general, but Black men especially. Is like when we see somebody else doing something positive. Like instead of tearing each other down, we should be working together. So for that, I want to say thank you. Just off the rip, I want to say thank you. But my name is James Walter Epps Jr., known as J.E. Motivation, known to my Marines as Master Gunnery Sergeant, known to my students at Reedsville High School when I was a teacher there as Master Guns. But at the end of the day, I'm just a little old country boy from Lake City, South Carolina, and who was just excited to share my life experience and just my knowledge with the people around me, and especially young people. See, I grew up in that little small town of Lake City, South Carolina, a town about 5 to 6 thousand people, and I grew up in a trailer park. So when I looked around, I never really saw a lot of what I would say is greatness, right? I just thought like, man, this is the life. This is the life that I'm going to be living. But luckily for me, I had a father that in my life, and no matter how bad it got, no matter what our life looked like, he poured into me. And those were the things that I kind of took away from my upbringing. Even though we didn't have a lot of money, I remember eating these things I call I wish sandwiches. For those of you who don't know what I wish sandwich is, I wish there was a meat in between the bread.
I
I
love
wish
it.
there. I wish I had a pancake instead of a separate bread sandwich. So I wish I had anything else to eat but what I'm eating right now. See, because I went through some trials and tribulations growing up. I'm going to share something with you, audience, that I share with the audience that I speak to. Like when I was growing up, I had a pretty tough upbringing. As far as like things that were happening to me. Like so, at the age of 6, I was molested by one of my older cousins. And see, that caused me to feel some way about my body, caused me to feel some way about my self-esteem. And if that wasn't enough, I was overweight, I had gap teeth, and let's just say my classmates wasn't always the nicest to me. So I struggled with a lot of things, but then I struggled through school as well because my grades wasn't always the best because I was thinking about all those other stuff. And then when I was at school, just things just didn't click because my mind was always clouded by all these other things that I'm thinking about. And it's a lot of things that these kids are thinking about now. It's like a lot of social issues, a lot of just worrying about what other people think about you because we don't have a lot of money. So I don't wear the best clothes. I used to wear these things called hoops. I mean, those are, we call them bobos, but those hoops used to look like Jordans. So I used to kind of try to hide them when I wear long pants and stuff like that, so people couldn't tell what type of shoes I had on. But those are the kind of things that I was thinking about. So I wasn't always getting my lessons. So I didn't look at myself as somebody who could do something great with their life. I actually looked at myself as a failure. So I never thought that I would do something positive or be speaking to people about what they could do with their life. And it got so bad to the point to where one day I was sitting at home and I was thinking about committing suicide. But like I tell people, that's the day that my life changed because two very important things happened that day. The first one was I decided to live. The second one was I decided to change my mindset. And that's why we're here today. I changed my mindset so my life began to be better. My situation didn't change. My situation didn't change. I still lived in that same trailer park, still lived. We still struggle sometimes with money and finances coming in the house. But like I said, my mother and father was always in my life, so I would never take that away from them. But we still struggle with a lot of things. But my mindset changed, and because my mindset changed, I began to do better, and my vision and my purpose on life changed that day. So that's how we got here today, man. And so I'm just so excited to share that journey, and I love that journey to freedom because I think your mindset is that journey to freedom. I mean, a lot of people think it's finances. Nah, it's your mindset. Your mindset is what makes you free.
Yeah, that's so cool. I mean, I love the fact that you got there. You were able to get out because so many people don't, right? Some people are victims of their circumstances. They don't have the ability to change that mindset, and that's the identity, right? The identity that we hold for ourselves. You know, I think I was watching the Tony Robbins thing one time, and he said the greatest force in the universe is being congruent with the identity that you hold for yourself. So if you're congruent with an identity that doesn't allow you to progress, you're congruent with an identity that tells you you're not enough. You're congruent with an identity that tells you you came from this, so you can't have whatever it is you want. Then that identity stops you from moving forward. And you got to that point in your life where your identity finally said, "Wait a minute, this is maybe my situation. You know, the things I can't control. The outside circumstances. That's what that is. But that's not who I am." And so, what do you think contributed to that?
Like I tell people, I feel like I was betraying myself to please other people. Like I was letting other people's perception of me become my perception of myself. It was not until I decided, like, look, I'm gonna be who I am, whether you like it or not. And sometimes we think other people are thinking about us, and sometimes they're not even thinking about us. Like we form this opinion, and it's a lot of times because when we look in the mirror, sometimes we just don't like what we see, and we're just sometimes afraid does everybody see what I see? And so we pick ourselves apart. It's like the same way you'll see a beautiful woman, and my wife is a beautiful woman, so I'm just explaining. You'll see a beautiful woman and nothing is wrong with her, but then she'll pick herself apart like she's not beautiful, like something is wrong with her. But when everybody else sees her, they think like she's the most beautiful woman in the world. And I think that's what we do to ourselves and how we tear ourselves down. And so now, if anybody ever says anything about it, now it's really magnified. So instead of you being more comfortable with it, now that insecurity comes up. Now those things, and then when you have the trauma that happens in your life, it makes you more insecure. And so I think that's what was happening to me. It was not until I was like, you know what, look, I only have one life to live, and I'm going to live it to the best of my ability. So when I had gap teeth, and look, you see these pretty teeth now. I paid a lot for them, so I gotta brag on them. All right, but you see these teeth now, but they were gapped until I was 41 years old. You know, and you know what I did? The reverse thing for me was if anybody ever said something about my teeth, I smiled more. I smiled more because I understood at the end of the day, I have to be happy with me. And so because I have to be happy with me, I'm going to live and I'm going to be who I am and I'm going to be this person and I'm going to strive every day to be the person that I want to be.
Were there people in your life that helped you with this transformation? Was there books or videos or things that helped you with that mindset, or was that just something you did totally internally and you made it happen? What did that look like?
Well, well, like I said, I have to give my father and my mother a lot of credit because even though, like I said, we struggled. I don't I want to make that clear. We struggled, but they were always positive. Like nobody in my family, especially on my dad's side, nobody in my family had ever gone to college. Like I had never seen that. So because that was not the vision, that's not what we a norm for us. That was not what we saw. So that wasn't something that was natural for our family. So, but my dad and my dad would always look at me, hey son, you can do better. All right, son, hey, you can be whatever you want to be. My mom, you can do whatever you want to do. So they always put that in me. So even though I was bringing home these F's and these D's, and they were still like, hey son, you can do something great with your life. So they were always still pouring into me. And then you would have the coaches and you would have the teachers at school. They would always see something in you and they would tell you, hey, you're going to be a fine young man. And so that's why a lot of times when I talk to young people in general, it's really a lot of times about your character. Like I know we make it like a thing where college is great, and I'm a big supporter of education, but I'm a bigger advocate of forming great people and great character people, people of integrity. Because, like I said, if the person at McDonald's drops my burger on the floor, I would hope that person would throw the burger away. So I want that person to have some sort of integrity and have character. So I want anybody, that come across. I just love to see people do well with their lives. And so I just have become such more of a positive person. And that took growing, and that took, like I said, those people pouring into me, seeing things that I didn't even see in myself. And I think that's what made me the person I am today, and that's what I try to do for other people.
Well, so good. And I'm glad you brought up integrity, because that's who you are when no one's looking. That's that I dropped the burger. Nobody saw me drop the burger. So instead of just pulling out a new one, I'm going to grab one that's right off the floor and put it there. But one of the things that I talk about a lot on this podcast is trust and our ability to trust others. Some of us, we walk into situations, and especially you're, a young black man from the South, and we've been taught all these things, and we walk into this thing where we believe that other people, and in many cases that might even be true, that we're looking at and we can't trust them, and we have to develop. And as black men, we struggle with trust because we've been taught not to trust. How do you approach situations and new people and new ideas? Are you trusting people first and letting them prove you wrong? Do you come in cautious? How do you deal with this thing, trying to judge, I guess, the integrity of other people before you look at your own character,
Yeah. All right, so
or you
it
look
was
at your
this thing
character of who you have, and then project that on other people.
yeah, I struggle with this for a long time. I struggle with like the things that you were saying because I am from the South. I'm from South Carolina. I grew up working in tobacco fields. So my granddaddy was like a sharecropper. So that mindset was still kind of there. So
Hmm.
it took a while to get to that point. Luckily for me, I got an opportunity to join the United States Marine Corps. The finest fighting force out there. Hoorah, Semper Fi to all my Marines out there. All right. So once I joined the Marine Corps, it broke a lot of the walls down for me. All right, because at the end of the day, when you join the military or you join these branches of service, you all have similar interests. And at the end of the day, it's about service and it's about services to the country. So I got an opportunity to talk to a lot of these people who did not look like me. And what I figured out is we all literally really want the same thing at the end of the day. But because of our background and because of the way we grew up, that's what kind of was dividing us because we never really had an opportunity to talk to somebody who didn't look like us about the issue. Why do you think this about Black people? Why do you think this about white people? Why do you think this about Hispanics? Why do you think this about people from Europe? Whatever it was, or wherever our background and wherever we were from, I had an opportunity to speak to people who did not look like me and really understand like why they felt the way they felt. One of my closest friends, man, he grew up in a small town in like Iowa where it's 99% white people. Like, so what do you think? Like the only people that he saw that looked like me were always on TV. And then what's that perception of the Black men and Black women that you see on TV? All right. So it was always a constant, learning. I was always constantly learning about other people. So I got to the point to where every book was a new book for me. What I mean is they say never judge a book by its cover. But I always tell people, when you go in a bookstore, if you haven't read the book, what's the first thing you look at? You look at the cover. So it took me a while to get
Exactly.
past the cover. And now I'm past the cover. When I see people, the first thing I do to everybody that I see, and nobody will ever tell you anything different, I say hello. I say hello. And it just a hello just breaks down so many walls because it's like we're always like kind of I don't know, right? Like I don't know if I want to say anything to this person. But so I say, hey, I am always first to hello. I try to beat you there. Hello, hey, how you doing? All right, cool. All right, and from there, those walls are breaking down, and then I begin to read the book, and once I read the book, that's what it is. So I just judge people on the character and the person that they show in front of me at that time. So I don't judge them anymore on anything because, like I said, I don't want to sound like our former president. They're good people. But what I mean is, I think there's good in everyone. All right, the people who hate, they're hate, and you understand and you see those
Mhm.
people. The people who love, and there are people who genuinely want the best for you who don't look like me and you, and there are people who look like me and you who want best for us, and there's people who look like us who don't want the best for us. But all those things happen. But I judge every book. Like I said, it's always just a new chapter in front of me, and I just read the book in front of me.
Cool. That's so neat. We talk a lot about who you become is based on the things that you read, the people that you hang out with, the rooms that you're in, the rooms that you're a part of. How do you cultivate relationships in ways that help not only you move forward, but then the people that are around you to bring them along with you? Or, how do you find those rooms and those places to be that are uplifting? Sometimes, you and I may be the because we're outgoing and we're happy and we might be the person in the room that brings a lot of people with us. But how do you, James, find rooms that make sure that you get lifted up, that make sure that you get to become the person that you're trying to become so you can do the things that you want to do?
Well, by always trying to better myself and always trying to network with people and always being willing to put myself out there to talk to other people and to talk to people who look like me and to talk to people who don't look like me.
Hmm.
Because that's the only way that we're gonna grow because we need access. A lot of times we just don't have access to a lot of things. what made me great as a Marine, I will tell people this all the time. I was good at my job, but I was great with people. So a lot of times, if I didn't know how to do something, I knew who to call to make sure, like, hey, yo, hey, bro, like, how do I do this right here? So, hey, I got this coming up. My Marine needs this from you. Hey, how can you help me? I heard you went through this problem before. All right. Hey, you need what? Okay, I know Dr. B. Dr. B does this. All right, let me connect you with Dr. B. So a lot of my friends and a lot of the people that I connect with, it's a lot of those type of relationships where it's like, okay, well, you need no surgery. All right, I got Dr. B on call. All right, he the best surgeon out there. I'm, I'm just making something up. But that's the kind of relationships that I try to form to where it's like I'm always networking where we can help each other. Right. So basically let's connect. And like I said, I've never really met somebody,
Oh
especially
man, that is so cool.
I try to find the good in everybody. So I'm always trying to network and be polite and be myself around anybody. So
That is so cool. Let's pivot for a minute to health. One of the biggest issues as African American men or Black men, our life expectancy is like 72. I sat down with somebody who said, he had me pull out a ruler and he said, this is, pull it out to 72 inches. You're 59 now. This is how much time you got left if you live to what? That scared me. I'm like, no, let me get out here and start walking. Let me get out here and start exercising. Let me get out here and do some stuff because I'm thinking, what can I do to make sure that I stay healthy and do it every single day? And in your world, I mean, you're healthy, you're fit. What are some things that you do that might help others say, I need to do this because I need to be on this planet longer to be able to make a difference?
all right, so I feel like your physical health helps your mental health, right? So your physical health definitely. I'm a
Yeah.
Marine. For a second, I did get a little lazy though. You work out for 22 years, no breaks. You just like I was just like, oh man, you mean I don't have to work out 2, 3 times a day anymore? Like I just kind of got a little excited. So I gained some weight. But what kind of scared me is you mentioned the facts and the numbers that you mentioned. But see, my family has a history of like my dying early. To be just honest with you, my dad died when he was 61. My uncle died in his 50s. So that was something that scared me, and but that was something that also motivated me to change. Like, okay, I'm not going to work a job. I'm not going to work a job. I'm going to at least chase my dreams and do something that I want to do in my life because of what happened to them. But also in that, I understood that physically, I'm going to have to take care of my body and do the things that are necessary to keep myself fit so I can be here to help people, the people that I want to help. So physically, we need to be in a place to where, because if I'm stuck in my house because I've put myself in a position to where I don't feel good physically, right? That's where those pains, those aches and stuff come from. Is because you're not keeping your body moving. When I look outside, I see a lot of old people, and all respect to old people because I think you're young old people. All right, but I see them walking, and I said, oh, that's how you live right there. You keep moving. I used to talk to a guy, he was 80 something years old, and he used to still come to work. I said, man, why are you still working? I know you can retire. And I always was learning from them. And he was just like, because if I retire right now, I'm going to die. I'm gonna retire. But he needed something to keep him moving, and that kept him moving. But especially when it comes to black men, so I'm talking to specifically black men right now, a lot of things that are killing men in general, but especially black men are our mental health. So it's the mental health. It's all the pressures, the anxieties and stuff that we go through that we don't take the time to talk to anybody. Because me personally, I remember going through a situation in my life where when my dad was passing away, when he started to kind of go down, he had a stroke, and within 4 years, he passed away. Well, he ended up coming to live with us. So it put a lot of pressure on me as a man. So we moved him in. My mom and my dad moved in with us, but I'm still at work and I'm still trying to get promoted. And now my wife was just transitioning. At that time, she was a stay-at-home mom, but now transitioning into a job. And I was really not a great husband to her at the time. And everything, I was trying to juggle all these balls, but the thing I was not doing, I wasn't talking to anybody. I felt like I had all this pressure on me, so I had to go to work and be perfect. I had to come home and try to be perfect, and it was all these pressures that I did not address with anybody. And so, because I did not address with that, I remember being on the basketball court, which was sometimes my outlet, and we lost the game. And I don't lose much. I want to put that out there. I don't lose much, but this particular day we lost the game. We lost the game. And so when we lost the game, I didn't we lost it in a way. Anybody who's played pickup basketball, sometimes you lose and you don't like how you lost. You think somebody cheated you out of the loss. Right. So I
Mhm.
thought we got cheated. And so I was so mad. And I would not move off the court. And this is not my normal behavior. It's not my normal behavior. So I would not move off the court, man. I was throwing the ball. I was acting crazy. And so I finally sat down, and one of my friends looked at me. He's like, "Jay, man, what's wrong with you?" it's like, what's wrong with you? And I just broke down, man. I broke down. I'm actually shoot. I got to shoot. I'm getting a little emotional about just thinking about it. Uh,
Mhm.
I broke down and I cried, man. And he let me cry. He let me cry, and he let me just tell him like everything that was going on, like in my life. I just kind of just spilled out like the pressure that I felt under and everything, and I felt better. And it was all I needed to do was talk to somebody about it. And so because he allowed me to be vulnerable and talk to
Mm.
him about it, that helped me tremendously during that time. And so I think that's a lot of things that we don't receive as men, but especially Black men. We don't receive an opportunity to be vulnerable to the people and the other men and women around us. Because anytime we show vulnerability, that shows a sign of weakness. But that actually, to me, that shows a sign of strength because
Mhm.
you recognize that you're not okay. And so when you recognize that you're not okay and you're willing to share that you're not okay, because sometimes we got to take a knee, man. Sometimes we got to say, hey, coach, I can't be in the game right now. And so for me, I once I started talking about like that, the things that were going on with me, even my supervisor at work, man, he would check on me. So they took care of me during that time. And that was a time that I could have went really left, but they kept checking on me and they kept thinking about me and they took care of me during that time. So that's why your mental health is so much more important. But I had an opportunity to share that. Some men go to their grave and never share things like that. So that was something that is big to me. So I'm always focusing on your mental health.
I love that. I was even going to ask you, what about mental health? But what is so, what I try to figure out, and as I'm thinking about putting together rooms, and the group that I'm going to take down to Alabama, but you we don't communicate with each other in those vulnerable situations. I call it, like, we do a lot of barbershop talk where we trash talk about other people, we complain about our lives, we walk away, and you could spend 4 or 5 hours in a barbershop and not have one conversation that is meaningful. It's just, you talk about the lives that we live through, other human beings, that kind of stuff. And so, how do we, if you were to be able to direct something, help us be in those conversations where we create rooms or we create spaces where we just get to talk about some of the things that we're dealing with. Like, I will talk about this in a minute, like finances, or talk about our relationships with our wives. Like, those are all these, like, I guess what we call taboo conversations to have, because if we have them, like you said, it shows a sign of weakness, or that we're all not together. We don't have it together. Well, I'm here to tell you, none of us have it all together. None of us have it all the way that
You
we want.
know,
So how do you foster that? What's your thoughts on that?
I think a lot of times we're afraid to show people who we really are. So instead of showing them who we really are, it's easier just to show them a version, right? So we paint this picture that everything's okay and everything's not okay. A lot of times with these young men, especially right now, they're going through so many mental things that we have gone through as older men. Like for me, I'm always looking for. I just even actually posted this on my LinkedIn on my post. It's about having mentors and coaches, right? It's important to have mentors and coaches because with those mentors and coaches, it's people who have gone through a lot of the same things that you've gone through, and you think you're going through all these things by yourself. And so with me, what I have become, and I'm not afraid to do, I'm not afraid to share first. Because you find a lot of times somebody was waiting for somebody to open the conversation up. And then once you open that conversation, it'd be like, you know what, I'm going through that same thing, man. I can't believe you going through, man, I didn't know other people had these same issues. So now you feel a little more comfortable to share. And so it's like, oh, so this is not taboo. It's okay for us to share this type of information. I'll give you an example. Me and my friends, like I've had friends that like the Marine Corps has provided me an opportunity to have like friends for years and years, right? And I remember the first time I told my friend, I said, "Bro, I love you." Like, bro, no, you can't, you know, like that's like a taboo thing. Like, hey, dog, we no, we don't do that, bro. I love you, like I love you. You my brother. I love you. And now, shoot, they tell me they love me before I say it. But before that, it was like something that you don't do with another man, especially because you thinking like, okay, well, you don't tell another man you love him. Well, I tell any man that's in my life that I call my brother, my friend, I will tell them I love them and not have an issue with telling them I love them. And so once you break those kind of walls, now you, like you said, now you get to have meaningful conversation because people need guidance, people need help. Because I have always taken everything that I've gone through in my life, I'm willing to share because I know it might help somebody else. So I've turned what, like they say, I've turned my pain into my power, and I've turned my pain into somebody else's power because I want them to know, yeah, you might be going through a hard time right now, but the sun will shine again. So I'm telling you, just keep working and keep going and keep fighting every day, and it will get better. And so when you get the opportunity to talk to people, that's how I open that conversation. It's always being willing to be first, man, and just share. And so that opens it up for the full for everybody else to share.
Yeah, I love that idea. I love the fact that, yeah, absolutely. I love that you have said, this is my willingness. This is how I break into these sectors in these rooms. I really want to talk about discipline right now because what I find out is, when we hear Einstein said that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And I talk as I'm doing this podcast and I'm out in the community and I'm talking to more and more Black men. A lot of us, we have dreams of things that we want to do, but our discipline cycle of being able to create discipline habits, routines, things that we do that will take us to that spot. And I think that's a lot about who you are about is motivating people. But some of that motivation has to come intrinsically. What do you do to make sure your disciplines work? I'm sure, I thank you for your service. And I know the Marine Corps helped you with some of those disciplines, but it's been a long time since you've been in the Marine Corps, right? So how do you continue it? Were those just habits they taught you? What is it that you can do or tell folks that they can do to help them get these disciplines? Because without those routines, without those habits, we get stuck in these cycles that then we start getting bad and regressing and not doing as well because we don't believe we can do the thing we need to do.
Like I always tell people, that saying, eat the pie one piece at a time, right? You don't eat the whole pie. All right. So if you have a goal or you have dreams, you have to start somewhere, right? So they'll start with little baby steps. I always used to explain to my Marines, the thing I want more from you than anything is like consistency. Like I don't want the ebb and flow. So you could be a superstar one day, but if you late to work the next day, what does it matter? I need you to be consistent and then pop up here, but I know I'm going to get this level of effort from you today. So I just tell people, man, just try to be consistent in whatever it is that you do in your life. All right. So especially if you really want it, like that's really the sign of whether you really want it or not. If you're not consistent at it in your life, you don't really want it. So you can't tell me you want to go to the NBA and you don't practice every day or you're not practicing hours a day. You can't tell me you want to be a writer, but you don't write or you don't read books. You can't tell me you want to be a doctor, but you're not researching what other doctors do or what's going on in the medical field. So it's really just being consistent at whatever it is that you want to do. And so if you're consistent every day and you're putting in the work, like it's almost like if you put money in the bank every day, eventually you're gonna have money. You're gonna have money if you're putting money in the bank every day. So it's like building up that equity in the stock in your investing in yourself. So if you do that consistently, so it's really just boils down to just being consistent in whatever it is that you do. So consistently keep showing up.
Consistency, show up, discipline. If I need to become the person I need to be able to do the thing, what are some things that maybe two or three things that you believe a person can do? Because I think we're in this generations where we want what the prize is at the end, but we haven't been able to become the person that we need to be able to do that. Like we haven't done the research, we haven't done the education, we don't know what to do because we've never been in that situation. If you're trying to become the person you want to be so that you can do that thing, what are some ideas or things that you would do or things you have done in order to get to where you're at?
Oh, stop comparing myself to other people. Stop looking at what everybody else has and just understand that my journey is my journey. And so sometimes some people's journey they travel it a little faster, some people they travel it a little slower. But at the end of the day, it's about getting to your destination. And so that's my whole thing is like I understand like all right, this didn't happen for me because it wasn't my time. And because of my faith, I believe like everything happens in God's time. So I don't worry about when, like, okay, so I think one day I'm going to get to touch the all and impact the people that I really want to. But for whatever reason, God still has me at this season in my life to where I'm not where I want to be eventually. But it doesn't mean that I'm not going to get there. So I'm not going to rush it. I'm just going to enjoy the journey. And a lot of times we're so in a rush to get there, but don't understand that that journey is preparing you for when you get there, right? You ever did something that you wasn't prepared for, like that you went in and you were unprepared for it because you kind of rushed it. And so when you're unprepared for it, that's how you lose things. It's a reason why a lot of times, if you imagine you hear all these stories of people who become millionaires and they lose the money, right? And these people who have never had any kind of finances in their life, why did they lose the money? Because they never was prepared to be a millionaire. They just thought once I get this money, it'll all take care of itself. So they didn't understand finances. So it went away just as soon as it came. So that's why I'm always be where your feet are and enjoy the journey. When you enjoy the journey, now when you get there, you'll be more prepared for it. As me as a Marine, I don't get to come in the Marine Corps and start off as a private and then all of a sudden I'm in charge of everybody. No, they built me up to now when I became a master gunnery sergeant, I was ready for that because I went through all these different steps to get there. So I had to take so many lessons, and we take lessons, not losses. So the good and the bad things that happen in our lives, I had to take those lessons and I grew from them. And because I grew from it, I became the type of person to where I could help other people. But if I don't go through those lessons, I have no information to give to anybody else because I've never been through nothing. So this, even as bad as some of the things that I feel like I've went through in my life, I am so grateful for it because it was all a part of the journey and it's allowed me to help other people.
You mentioned faith and you mentioned God in your when we just talked. How do you lean in your interactions? How do you lean on God, and how do you utilize your faith in everything that you do that then helps you become that person?
Because I feel like he put me in the presence of people that I need to be in the presence of. I go back to a time where I was when I was in the military and I like I tell you I speak to everybody. And so in the military I have my section, basically the people who work with me on a daily basis. And so I could easily just talk to those people. I don't have to talk to anybody outside of that. Well, a lot of times we're in these, I won't say companies, but we call them units. All right, so imagine a company where over 400 or 500 employees. Well, I take the time, and even when I was working in school, I take the time to try to get to know everybody, at least, just say hello, and I start studying you kind of. I start studying. If I speak to Dr. B, all right, Dr. B usually responds this way, right? I speak to this person responds this way. Well, this person did not work for me. And this one particular day, we were passing each other, and I spoke to him. And Marines have a way of speaking to each other, so a lot of times it's like, oh, Ron, hey. So we have some kind of excitement. It's our own language. It's kind of crazy, but anyway, all right. On this particular day, the Marine did not speak to me in that way. He spoke to me in a way that he seemed like he was very down. And so I said, "Hey man, hey, what's going on?" And he was like, "Nothing, nothing, Master Sergeant," at the time. And I'm like, "No, man, hey, you need to talk, man. What's going on?" And he explained to me he was thinking about committing suicide because him and his girlfriend was having issues. And so that's where I feel God has used me a lot of times in my career, is because I've come across that a few times. And when we got to talk, I was able to talk to him. And once again, men being able to let that energy, that thing that's holding you back, letting that out. I to understand, like, man, you're not alone, man. We care about you. We're gonna get you whatever help that you need to get you through this, right? And so that's where I feel God has used me a lot of times throughout my career. Is He's put me in places that I needed to be to help other people get through things that they otherwise I don't know. Because I always think, like, what if I would have walked by that guy and he said what he said and I just kept going. But because of that everyday interaction, I feel like God just put me in those positions to help other people in that way. It was the same thing at the school that I worked at. I spoke to all the students, and if they spoke to me any differently, I'm like, I used to tell this one young lady, and it was crazy. I used to tell her every day, I said, "Hey, I see you." And she used to look at me like, "What? See me?" Like, oh, I said, "I see you. I see that you're a good person," because she used to get in a lot of trouble. I said, "I see you are a good person. I see that you're smart." And I used to just try to tell her all these things every day to help her understand, like, this is who you really are. I see all this other stuff that you do, but this person is in there. And what was crazy is I stopped working at the school, but I went back to visit the school. And when so she came up to me and she was like, "I'm doing good this year. I'm not getting in trouble." And so she was like thanking me, for believing in her. But that's what I feel like God has put me on this earth to do, is just be a positive influence in the other people's lives. So that's why I feel where my faith has guided me and helped me so much, because I don't see a stranger. I just see somebody that needs God. And not to go long, but I think that is one of the biggest things that is ailing these kids right now. They don't have any faith. They don't believe in anything. When I used to sit and talk to them, and I'm just like, man, wow, I said, like, I I started to understand that. I said, how can they value my life when they don't value their own? And when you have like faith and you have hope and you have belief, right? I knew you have some kind of system that tells you, like, I can't go but so far when I do things, right? It tells me I shouldn't steal, I shouldn't kill, I shouldn't lie. So you have all those things to go off. When you don't have any faith, none of that stuff matters. And we push so much of these kids, like, be who you are, be yourself, be yourself. That's great. But remember, there was somebody who created you. And remember, they have a purpose for your life. And don't ever forget that. And so I think with that has that's hurt our society, with these kids not having integrity, not having the moral character that they should have. And I don't blame them. I blame us, because once again, going back to mentor and coaches, and for somebody to tell them, like, look, hey, it's gonna be okay. There's somebody that's been through what you're going through, and I know right now you're just kind of acting out. You're not. This is not really how you really feel, and just trying to help them in that way. But I believe faith, no matter, like, I'm a Christian, but like I tell people, even other faiths, they have some kind of belief system that tells you don't do this, right? And when you don't have any of that, you don't have the hope and the faith to understand, like, all right, there's a line that I just don't cross.
Wow, that's so good. Thank you for sharing that. When we talk about money, money is that thing that is, it's a way that we transact and we barter between each other. And people will try to tell you money's not important. Well, to me, it's up there with oxygen, right? Because you can't do stuff without this. this exchange that we have. And we use it every single day. We're spending money all day long. If you have a house and you're paying for electricity every second of every day, you're spending money. You talked to us earlier about growing up in in the situation you did. How has money? How have you been able to grasp this thing called money that has allowed you to move forward? Because I think a lot of us get stuck because we believe we'll never have, or we can't get, or it's not available, or this is, I remember, the Jim Rome, lesson where he was like, he had a mentor that said, why aren't you doing well? And he said, well, because this is all they pay me, or this is all they pay. And then, his mentor said, well, that's all they pay you. They pay other people other
Yeah.
things. So how does money interact in your life that allows you to it is important and it's up there, but it's also something that we have to wrestle. It's something we as Black men don't ever talk about. It's like we just try to figure it out ourselves. What could you give us as an insight
Oh,
on,
it's
how money has interacted in your life?
money. To me, money is simple. All right, so I I don't chase money, but I feel like your purpose will create your profit, right? So I'm not chasing money, but I just feel like, but let me just say it in this way: money is access. Money is access. Money will give me access to now help the people that I truly want to help, right? Now I can open some of those doors to be able to help people who are in need, like I was in need, like other kids are out here in need. So to me, I just look at money as access. And so the more money I make, so I make more money than my parents made. So now my kids all have an opportunity to go to college. Right. So what changed? I don't feel like I'm any better father than my father was, but what changed was I have a little bit more money, so my kids have a little bit more access. So money, it drives everything in our society. I'm not telling you to just fall in love with money because money is not everything, because money won't make you happy. But not having money doesn't make you happy either. Doesn't make you happy either. All right. So like somebody said, I would rather see how it feels to have the money than to not have the money, than to not have the money. So money just creates so much access and gets you into to rooms to where you're now able to provide to the people that you really want to provide for. So I've always looked at money as just a way of access. So now my kids and hopefully my kids, because of the access that my kids have, now they have an opportunity to go to college. And all those choices are on them. I mean, my kids make their own choices, but it's the access. But they can't say that they don't have access to it. And so I just look at money as an opportunity to have access to get you places that otherwise you won't get. Money has allowed me to live in neighborhoods that I normally wouldn't be able to live in. And because I've lived in those neighborhoods, my kids have had an opportunity to go to what? Better schools. All right. So it's all about access. And so that's how I've always looked at money. It's like, hey, money is basically a tool just for access for you to get better. So,
I love it. I love it. Got two more questions for you, and then we'll find out a little bit about the future for you. Is um, First one is just what does freedom mean to you? What when you hear the word freedom and we're journeying to get there, what is that? What is that goal or that thing in your life that says freedom is this is what I believe freedom is?
well, freedom is basically me being able to do the thing that I love every day and impact the people that I feel like I've been put on this earth to impact, and not worry about what we just talked about, not worry about finances, because my definition of success may be different from somebody else's definition of success. My definition of success is the legacy that I leave, or the people that I've been able to provide for, the people that I've been able to help. So when I think about like, okay, like how what was my footprint on this earth, right? Did I leave a footprint on this earth? Because that means something to me. So that's how I look at like this daily journey and this life that we're going through is like, what did I do with my time here on earth? And sometimes I'll be honest with you, sometimes I feel like I'm not doing enough. Sometimes I wish I could do more. And sometimes I know I can do more. And so I always just trying to be a better person each day to become really the person that I want to be, to really feel like I'm free and like I'm really just doing his will for my life and just doing what I was designed to do on this earth. And so that will be really the freedom for me, is to be able to just do the thing that I was put here on this earth and make the finances on top of that, So my purpose is my profit. So that's what I would love to be able to do.
I love it. So what's next for James? What is, thing maybe we didn't talk about it yet. Maybe it's something you just want to give, but take a few minutes just to say this is what I want you to get out of our conversation that we had, for the people that are listening. And then what's next in your life? What can we get excited about? What can we watch for that we see that James is going to do, in the next few years, that we want to be watching and praying for and making sure you get there?
Yeah, I just want to continue to grow as a speaker, continue to encourage and impact people in general. Hopefully my business continues to grow, not for finances, but for impact. I just want to be able to impact this world in a way that people, when they think about me, they think about, man, that guy is really positive. That guy helped me through a tough time, or that guy kind of unlocked this door that I was having trouble with opening. And I want to be able to be put in a position to where I can open those doors that wasn't always open for me. And so that's where I'm going. And so I'm just continuing to just put in the work each day and continue to just try to create what we just talked about, access. So I'm just trying to continue to put myself in a position to where we create more access. So I'm looking forward to the next couple months. I like to continue in this program that we're working on, to get into even this corporate space where we can help with the workplace where I can help with the workplace culture in these places, and just culture in general, because I just feel like culture just affects so much. Whether you know this or not, every place that we go, there's a culture, right? I have a home and you have a home. You create a culture in your home. I create a culture in my home. There's different cultures at different schools. This is the way. So there's culture everywhere, and so that's over the next couple months and the next year or so. That's what I'm looking forward to, is creating those, opening those doors so I can speak to people and just help with the workplace culture, and which ultimately just boils down to back to people's mental health. I just making sure they're in a place to where they feel good about what they're doing, so they can be positive and they can be productive in their everyday life. So that's what I'm looking for the next couple of months to a year or so.
One thing I'm starting is, at the end of my conversations, is if you were to watch whoever my next guest is, and you would want them to answer a question, or you would want to find out something about them. In this year it's 100 black men for sure. What would you want to hear from another black man, in a conversation like this that we're having, that would help inspire you to move forward?
Oh, I would probably from another, especially from another black man, is I love to hear people's journey. And so when I understand your journey, it helps me to understand your purpose and why you're here. And so that's all I want to hear. I want to hear your journey, because your journey is going to be different than mine. Even though, like, I have two sisters, we grew up in the same household. Our journey in life has been totally different. Like, we were raised by the same parents, we were taught a lot of the same values, but our journey in life is different. And so everybody has their own story. I just love to hear your story, what it took for you to get to where you are. Because that always, for me, when I hear other people's stories, it inspires me. So when I see, especially when you're successful, no matter what no matter what it was that you went through. And so I just love to hear your story. So I love to hear the journey and how you got to where you are and understand your purpose. So that's what I love to hear.
Well, James, it has been an honor. It has been, just so great to know that you are part of the process, that you are thriving, that you are doing incredibly well, in the space that you're in. And I can't wait to watch your journey, to continue to watch the things you do, and hopefully we can collaborate on some things, that we can, speak together, do stuff, because you are a person that I believe our youth can look up to. And I just thank you so much, for being part of the Journey to Freedom uh, podcast, being part of our environment, being part of the good things that you. Again, thank you for your service as you served in the Marines and helping our country. But better yet, I can't wait, to see how you continue to be a great dad and a great husband and all the things that I believe that are important in our society for us to be. So again, thank you for being part of it. Do you have any closing thoughts that you would love to just, last few second thoughts that you'd love to share with everybody?
Yeah, I want to say this. I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you for inviting me here. Like I said, this was just such a great opportunity, and I'm just happy that you saw something in me to where you were willing to invite me to be on your platform. And I want to say to my audience, remember this: you are whatever you say you are. If you believe, therefore you are. I said it again. You are whatever you say you are. If you believe, therefore you are. This is for the people who did not hear me. I said you are whatever you say you are. If you believe, therefore you are. And I want you to say this every day when you wake up. I am great.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much for being on. Thank you, Will. For those of you who are just now listening to another episode of the Journey to Freedom podcast, I hope you will continue to listen. Please hit the subscribe. I'm looking for at least 50% of the people who watch this to subscribe to, because we have some incredible content with some incredible guests. I can't wait to talk to you on the next one. You guys have an awesome, amazing day. Don't forget you're God's greatest gift. We'll talk to you soon.